just saw was me using the exotic hand cannon, the Sturm, which since Season of the Witch, hand cannon's got a major buff in general. But since then, it's been racking my brain on what hand cannon can compete with Malfeasance, because Malfeasance right now is one of the best hand cannons in the game. So is Warden's Law. Warden's Law is arguably slightly better in certain scenarios, especially if you pair it with like an exotic heavy like Anarchy or something. But I really wanted to sort of not do that too much. This video is more focusing on, can Sturm beat out Malfeasance, because Malfeasance beats any other hand cannon apart from Warden's Law. So can Sturm be close to Malfeasance? And it can be. As you're going to see in the test coming up, that this hand cannon can literally compete with Malfeasance. If only Lucky Pants worked with Sturm, then Sturm would be the best hand cannon in the game, hands down. It doesn't. It's so unfortunate. Maybe it's on intention that Lucky Pants will not work with his hand cannon. It has a funny interaction with its overflowed mag. So the perks the gun has: extended barrel, extended mag, storm and stress, combat grip, and accomplice. Don't worry about accomplice. This will fill energy weapons, but we're not going to use it like swapping back and forth. We're only going to use drang, because the perk states kills with drang reload this weapon and overflow a bonus damage round into the magazine. You can do this and overflow the mag until 111 rounds. 99 overcharged rounds, and then it's a 12 mag with that. So the 12 mag isn't buffed, but the 99 overcharged shots are, which I'll get into. So with that, you need to make sure that you've got a good drang on, right? You can craft it. Mine's got incandescent on, wellspring. So you need a drang build, really, which I've got one on. So Dawn Chorus helps you get a lot of scorch. It improves your scorch ability. There's a lot of stuff that it does. It works really well, this, with drang in particular. So there's other builds that I could have run. You don't need to run a reload and exotic, because Sturm will not be needed to be reloaded. So fire and forget and all that sort of stuff. Rain of fire, you wouldn't need it. Although you could use it to reload drang, but I'd rather have the enhanced scorch that Dawn Chorus adds. It doesn't really matter too much. You're just going to spam drang, overflow the mag as high as you can so that you're ready for any damage. And there'll be a couple of dungeon damage tests coming up comparing this to Malfeasance with Lucky Pants. But I will say that Sturm will beat a non-Lucky Pants Malfeasance. It will beat it. But it won't be a Lucky Pants Malfeasance. It will keep up with it. I guess if there was like a boss with a 2-minute damage rotation, then Sturm would like beat Malfeasance. It would have a higher total damage type deal. But for burst damage, it's slightly less, but only a little bit less. But if you're not on a hunter, then this is actually the best exotic hand cannon in the game. That's my statement about it. So there's a couple of tests coming up. So the first thing that we need to establish is how much more damage do you get from Sturm in PvE when the overcharge perk is procced. So I tested this on miners, mini bosses and bosses, because just to make sure that the perk is uniform right across, and it is when you look at all the numbers, but the numbers are different for each enemy type, because each enemy type is coded differently for damage, so bear that in mind. But when I've looked at all the numbers, the increase is the same, 3.6 times more damage when you have the perk procced. It's around about 3.6 to 3.7 in between there, roughly, right? So that's the damage increase, but we now need to see what damage it would do in a certain scenario. So the test coming up, the rules are for it: I'm allowed a 12-second radiant, I'm allowed triple kinetic surge, but no rapid fire ranger or debuffs allowed. Rapid fire ranger is the seasonal artifact mod. I didn't use that in these tests, although it was active on Shattered Throne, but not on these tests. So on Arculus, the Spider the Watcher dungeon, this is the best boss, I think, to test for crit damage, because it's pretty straightforward. The length of DPS, or the total time you get the damage, is around about 20 seconds after eyes are shot I shot the eyes with a machine gun on all tests to make it uniform, and also followed the rules that I just stated before. So the first test that we'll do is with Warden's Law with Lucky Pants, 4 times the charm, Vorpal weapon, the best roll you can get on the gun, pretty much, and see how much damage that does against this boss. As I said, it's 20 seconds. We'll establish a baseline, and then we'll see if Sturm can be competitive with this. Because let me remind you, what I'm doing here right now is only accessible to Hunters. Warlock and Titan mains cannot pull this damage off with Warden's Law. It's impossible. Unless you start to add debuffs and sort of stuff like this. But 1-to-1, side by side, they can't pull off the same damage. So it's Hunter exclusive, and not everybody's a Hunter main. 988k. So that's our baseline. So what can Sturm do with that? Can it compete at all? Remember, Sturm can be used on any class. It doesn't work with Lucky Pants, but it can be used on any class. So let's see how close the damage is. If it's less than half, obviously I would tell you this isn't worth it. The gun's not worth it. Right? We've got 988 on the Warden, which can do more damage than Malfeasance in certain situations. So we'll see what Sturm does. We're trying to hit as much crits as we can. Same rules apply. Kinetic Surge is Radiant, as I said already. We're to the T damage, which is actually good. I remember, like, week 1 Soulfall Spire getting to T with, like, linears. 964k. We're literally just about there. Similar damage to Warden. And there was actually 2 or 3 shots missed, which I was hitting, like, a good damage number per hit as well. So that just goes to show. And that wasn't even Lucky Pants. That's the power of it. The power of Sturm is that you don't need Lucky Pants. Although, as I said, I wish that it did work with Lucky Pants. It just doesn't. Has a weird interaction. So now it's Malfeasance. Let's see if Malfeasance... Well, let's see where Malfeasance is. We've got 988 for Warden. 964 for Sturm. So let's see where Malfeasance goes with this. As I say, the tests are uniform somewhat. They're not perfect. But it isn't for that. It's to give you a rough. So we're just slightly higher than a Warden. Slightly higher than Sturm. And like I said, that was with Lucky Pants. So we'll do another damage test that's slightly longer than Arkelos. This is with Captain Avarok. Right, so we need to get to the back of the map because this is the easiest way to damage him safely solo. We'll get a Radiant and then just get as many crits as we can. If I popped a healing rift, this would lose me damage. That's why I didn't pop a healing, but I may need to do a healing aid. I'm not allowed to do a Well of Radiance. That is the rule. I forgot to mention, I'm not allowed to. But imagine if I did do a Well of Radiance. We would just about be beaten a Lucky Pants Hunter if I'd done a Well, because the Well doesn't stack with Radiant, I know, but the Well lasts longer than a 12-second Radiant. Get it? We got 954. Now you'll see how close it is, but as I said, if I pop my Well, we will be actually just about on par or beaten Malfeasance. So this is the Malfeasance, the last test. You know, what I will say is though, the Sturm and Drang thing is very unique, and it's really more for a solo player to pull off in dungeons and long activities. It wouldn't work in GMs, it wouldn't work in stuff like that unless the champ mods were favourable. It's really for like dungeons and activities where you're playing for quite a long time solo. If you die, you lose your mag. That is the thing about it. This little test, one thing I didn't do, I should have done, is Marksman's Dodge, but that's fine. You'll still get a rough number of what it was. We're down to the E, and you'll see that it's very similar. Obviously slightly higher, but very similar to Drang. But that was the video on that. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.